The South China Sea is one of the world's most important waterways. Around $3.3 trillion worth of trade passes through it. It's also believed to contain massive reserves of energy and accounts for a full 10% of the world's fishery stocks. Yet these are also choppy waters politically. They're prone to tensions because China and a number of other actors in the region have overlapping territorial claims. The South China Sea is also on the front line in the contest for the Indo Pacific between China and the United States. What's more, this jostling between states doesn't cease even when there's a pandemic. In fact, over the past few months, tensions have been at a high. Just in July, we've seen China's Navy hold training exercises along the Paracel Islands. At the same time, the US Navy has pushed back by deploying two aircraft carrier groups in the region. The latest Chinese drills are part of what appears to be a pattern of aggression. In March, just as the COVID 19 outbreak was growing into a full fledged pandemic, Beijing sought to project force through intensified drills and also by violating the exclusive economic zones of other states. There were also collisions with a Japanese destroyer in the East China Sea and with a Vietnamese fishing boat in the South China Sea. During this time, China has also doubled down on its territorial claims over the Spratlys and the Paracels by establishing the Shisha and the Nansha districts, before renaming 80 topographical features in the sea. These escalatory steps amid a raging pandemic have led many to wonder about Beijing's intentions. In a new research publication, Takshashila's Suyash Desai, Manoj Keval Ramani, and Aditya Ramanathan have examined the likely reasons for China's actions. They argue that the escalation by the PRC is likely to be useful for domestic propaganda and that it will also support Beijing's claims of having contained the COVID 19 outbreak. However, these escalatory measures may also be strategically counterproductive in the long term. They are likely to undermine the ongoing negotiations for a South China Sea Code of Conduct and are also likely to force regional powers to pursue greater balancing alongside the United States and also with other like minded powers. They classify the possible actions Beijing could take into six categories and assess the probability of conflict from each. The first of these is limited blocking actions. These could include a range of actions, such as harassing merchant or fishing vessels, disrupting drilling activities, or blockading access to certain features. The likelihood of conflict here is not very high. The second is a declaration of an air defense identification zone by China. In November 2013, Beijing established just such an air defense identification zone over the East China Sea. If similar action is planned in the South China Sea or over Taiwan, there will be far greater friction, and the potential for conflict is much more significant. The third is collisions and accidents. Collisions between naval ships or military aircraft could lead to larger crises, especially if these result in fatalities. We should note that this sort of deadly accident has happened before. In 2001, an American spy plane and a Chinese fighter jet collided, killing the Chinese pilot. Only skillful diplomacy diffused that situation. The fourth is non-lethal actions. These are activities that could include a violation of Taiwan's airspace, or electronic jamming or GPS spoofing that is targeted at land-based facilities or naval vessels. Since these actions are non-lethal in nature, the probability of conflict is low. The fifth is a forceful change of status quo. Seizing the Senkaku Islands in the East China Sea or features in the South China Sea controlled by other claimants will likely lead to greater conflict. The sixth is sabotage and intelligence operations. In the event of cyber attacks or aggressive intelligence operations, the probability of conflict generally remains low. The big exception is cyber attacks that successfully target critical infrastructure or financial systems in, say, Taiwan or Vietnam. These could lead to serious escalation. Based on this framework, the authors conclude that while posturing will continue, the probability for escalation is the highest if there are accidents, if China declares an air defense identification zone, or if it tries to forcefully change the status quo in a way that undermines the current lines of control in the region.